Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified Queer News Tonight YouTube channel has the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached 11 million streaming views. And Queer News Tonight has been the most watched LGBTQ news and lifestyle show in the world in 2025.
We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community. There's no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Tuesday, August 26th, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we will tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show. Hotspots Happening Out is one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, in the same model as PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
We want to inform and educate on the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture.
Our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience. Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 11,000 LGBTQ streaming stories. We present South Florida's major LGBTQ events, including Pride Fort Lauderdale, Stonewall Pride, and Pride Fest. Our nonprofit 501c3 magazine, events, television, news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2025, more than 100 community leaders will sit at this table and share their voice as our anchors. Together, we host the show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet this evening's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome Gil Pontes. Gil is a relationship-driven nonprofit executive and political strategist, currently the executive director of the Next Gen Chamber of Commerce. Formerly with Options Magazine, he brings decades of experience in LGBTQIA+ advocacy, development services, and grassroots fundraising. Gil, Bats, Balls, and Family exhibit to open in Fort Lauderdale on September the 12th. Tell me what's happening out.
Fort Lauderdale will soon spotlight the power of sports, pride, and community when Bats, Balls, and Family, the history of the South Florida Amateur Athletic Association, opens at the Hester and Ross Galleries. This exhibition will be on display from September 12th to November 2nd, with an opening reception on Friday, September 12th at 6 p.m. This exhibition will celebrate the legacy of the South Florida Gay Amateur Athletic Association, better known as SFGLAA, an organization that transformed baseball diamonds and basketball courts into places of empowerment, resilience, and belonging. Visitors will see how queer athletes, long excluded from traditional sports spaces, created a vibrant community defined by teamwork, visibility, and pride. Attendees will be invited to explore the history and honor those who redefined what it means to win. Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library, SNMAL, operates one of the leading gay archives in America in the Stonewall Library, which remains the largest LGBTQ+ collection in the world. For details, visit stonewall-museum.org. I think it's incredibly important to highlight LGBTQ athletes and especially acknowledging them in a space where typically we don't recognize LGBTQ participation.
The South Florida area, that's the first thing I noticed when I moved here. I'm not, like, I don't play the T-ball or whatever they do. But the week I moved here 19 years ago, with the baseball, and it's world famous and it's famous, it's important. That thing.
The World Series?
Yeah, World Series. The Gay World Series was here. Like, I guess they move around. But they were playing here, and here I was, I went to the concert. I didn't go to but anyway, but that was the first thing. And then you never age out. I had a 40-year-old friend on a kickball team here. The first person I ever even knew about pickleball was in her 70s. Like, this is a place you come at whatever age, you can be involved and stay involved as forever. And because you're active, you'll be active forever. So this is not only a great way to feature queer athletes, but to feature where we are, where queer athletes of every age can thrive.
Yeah, and I agree. I think having spaces where our community can get together, again, I always use this as an example, like outside of bars or places to convene. And obviously the sports is an area where a lot of people were, not welcomed or being part of and enjoyed having sports. I think that I know the organization itself is really great at creating community. So I'm happy to see this exhibit, and hope everyone goes and checks it out. And Queer News Tonight does look forward to seeing you at the Bats, Balls, and Family exhibit on September 12th. Now let's welcome anchor Bishop Durrell Watkins, the senior minister at Sunshine Cathedral, one of the most important LGBTQ churches in the world. He is an auxiliary bishop of the Global Justice Institute and the current president of the Divine Science Federation. Durrell, Fort Lauderdale's gay and lesbian meet and greet social cocktail mixer is on September 9th. Tell me what's happening out.
Fort Lauderdale LGBTQ Social Group will hold the largest monthly meet and greet social cocktail mixer for gay and lesbian members on Tuesday, September the 9th at 6 p.m. at Hunter's Nightclub in Wilton Manors. This month's event, taking place in a private room with tables, chairs, and background music, promises to be an evening of fun, friendship, and connection. Organizers will encourage both returning and new members to join, making it an ideal opportunity to mingle with familiar faces while also welcoming newcomers. Guests will enjoy happy hour prices with both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages available. A one-drink minimum purchase will be required. Attendees will be invited to stay afterward for karaoke, adding to the night's entertainment. Women will be especially encouraged to attend, and members will be able to bring along friends. Due to high demand, spots are limited and RSVPs will be essential. Fort Lauderdale LGBTQ Social Group was created with the intention of bringing any and all people together, both couples and singles, to share events and activities that offer a large variety of experiences. More details about the event can be found on the Fort Lauderdale LGBTQ Social Group's social media account. I love anything that encourages community. We have a lot of arts in this community, and that brings people together. We have churches, we have sporting events, anything that brings people together. And this is another opportunity. In fact, it's the purpose, to gather these events to meet people, and then of course to maintain connections you met. This is religious nerd stuff, but the Greek word ecclesia is the word that is translated as both synagogue and church. So when you see those words in the Bible, that's from the word, and what it literally means is assembly. And so every time, I love to think about that, whenever queer people are together for a good purpose, to enjoy each other's company and to affirm each other, that's church. And so if you don't go to any other church, or if you go to 2 or 3 other churches, who cares? You can have this church event too. This event of people getting together and just really shining as the people they are.
I honestly couldn't have said it better myself. I think it's so important to allow different venues and different events for people in order to firmly build community. I think it's critical.
Yeah, again, we also do some networking events with the Hollywood LGBTQ Council, and what we found with those events is, calling them a networking event. Of course, it's being held at a restaurant or a bar or something, but it's also just a place for people to just come together, either whether it's introducing, the word networking sometimes has like a very agenda driven, but it's really just learning about your neighbors and finding out, what people do and where they live and what their interests are. And I find that we get a lot of great feedback from that. And I'm sure this is going to be the same. So definitely check it out. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Gay and Lesbian Meet and Greet Social Cocktail Mixer on September 9th.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Jeff Oliverio. Jeff is the founder and president of the Hollywood LGBTQ+ Council and serves as co-chair for the upcoming 5th annual My Hollywood Pride, which returns in January 2026. He also serves on the Save Gala Committee. Jeff is the director and certified financial planner with Truist Wealth based in Fort Lauderdale. Jeff, Bears of South Florida celebrates At the Wedding on September 4th. Tell me, what's happening out?
Well, the Bears of South Florida Sorry, I'm not a good bear, will present a special community night at Island City Stage on Thursday, September 4th at 7 p.m. The event will feature the lively and comedic production At the Wedding by Bryna Turner, a queer comedy about crashing your ex's wedding. Guests will be treated to a champagne toast, the performance, and a wedding reception style after party in the rehearsal space. The after party will include mingling with the cast, delicious treats, photo opportunities at the wedding guest book wall, and fun surprises. Attendees are encouraged to dress with flair. Tickets for the night will include a special discount for Bears of South Florida members. They can enter the code BOSFL and get $5 off. Island City Stage is a professional theater that shares stories of universal interest with entertaining, challenging, and inspiring productions. And the Bears of South Florida, Inc. is a safe and welcoming space for the Bear community of South Florida to socialize and engage in fundraising activities. All the money raised through the event will help support local LGBTQ organizations, ensuring the evening carries both joy and impact. For more details, you can visit bosfl.org or islandcitystage.org. This event sounds like a lot of fun. The Bears of South Florida, of course, do a lot of community events with a fundraising tilt to them, which I love. But this wedding thing reminds me, like there's been some of these on off-Broadway productions, like Tony and Tina's Wedding. So this sounds like there'll be some like ways where you can engage with the cast and take photos. I love this kind of interactive performance art. I think it's really fun. It kind of is a little different spin on just going out to see a show and sitting there and being able to participate. So it sounds like a lot of fun.
It is more fun when it's interactive. I mean, wouldn't want to be interactive in Shakespeare because you know the lines. But this is great when you feel like the whole room becomes a stage and you become part of it and you get caught up in the story. I love that. And this idea that the reception, this after party is going to carry on the theme. So it's almost like the story continues. So it's a really good idea. And plus, I love theater. And I love bears. Mm-hmm. And so you put them together, that's an amazing evening.
Plus, in general, the Bears of South Florida put together some fantastic events. I remember a few months back, my partner and I, we ended up going to a little meetup that they had over at Lit, which was kind of a dog-themed party. Mm-hmm. So we brought along our pup and introduced him. So the Bears of South Florida know how to put on a great event, and I'm sure this will be no different.
Absolutely.
Well, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the wedding, or I should say at the wedding, on September the 4th.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up business. This South Florida pizza restaurant only won to make the top 25 in America, and it's an LGBTQ favorite. Pizza lovers, listen up. South Florida just scored a major slice of national recognition. The Infatuation, a New York-based restaurant recommendation website, has released the 25 best pizza places in America, and only one South Florida restaurant made the cut. That honor goes to Miami Slice, located in the heart of downtown Miami. The article notes that while pizza debates can get heated, some swearing their best slice came at a childhood sleepover, there's no denying that some pizzas are objectively better than others. And according to the Infatuation, Miami Slice has mastered the balance of sauce, cheese, and crust that lands it alongside legendary names like Frank Pepe in New Haven, La Industrie Pizzeria in Brooklyn, and Pizzeria Bianco in Phoenix. What makes this win even more special? Miami Slice isn't just a hotspot for foodies. It's also become a favorite gathering space for the city's LGBTQ community. Known for its late-night vibe, neon glow, and welcoming crowd, the restaurant is celebrated as much for its atmosphere as its unforgettable slices. So whether you're craving a quick bite after dancing in Wynwood or planning a chill evening with friends, Miami Slice proves that South Florida is serving more than sun and surf. It's also dishing out some of the best pizza in the nation. I have to admit I have not been to Miami Slice, although I've had a lot of friends that have been there before. Obviously, pizza is a very heated topic, being of Italian heritage and also growing up in New Jersey. That's a very big honor to say that it's one of the best pizza places. It is not on my South Florida list, but I will definitely want to check it out. But I know they have been copied a lot, so that definitely shows that they have a good following. And I love that it's a hangout. I mean, downtown Miami, of course, is a 24-hour, kind of operation. So it kind of makes sense that this would be a cool hangout.
Right. Well, pizza and queer folk, that sounds like heaven right off. And I'm really not a queer, I mean, I am so queer. I'm not a pizza aficionado. I'm not a pizza snob. I mean, I will eat toast with ketchup. But those looked just beautiful. That looked like art. So I would definitely have to try that.
That just looked absolutely delicious and made me just ready to have supper.
Yes, well, I definitely hope everyone will check that out.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Gil Pontes, and let's queer up politics. Texas gerrymander targets the South's only LGBTQ Congresswoman. Texas Republicans are moving forward with the redistricting plan that would dismantle the South's only openly LGBTQ member of Congress. Out lesbian Julie Johnson, a Democrat representing the Texas 32nd Congressional District, is condemning the GOP-backed proposal passed by the Texas House of Representatives. Under the plan, her district would be split into 8 different pieces, stretching as far as East Texas and the Oklahoma border. Johnson said in a statement, quote, "This is not democracy. It is a corrupt power grab designed to protect Donald Trump and his failed policies while ensuring Republican control for another decade. These maps were drawn behind closed doors with one goal in mind, to keep power in the hands of a New York felon while denying fair representation to Texans. It is an insult to every voter who believes their voices matter in our democracy," end quote. The maps are expected to take effect in 2026, threatening Johnson's ability to hold her seat. She made history in 2024 as the first out LGBTQ plus person elected to Congress from the South. California Governor Gavin Newsom responded by calling for a special election in November to add 5 Democratic seats in his own state, a move aimed at countering Texas's advantage. Johnson stressed that Democrats will not back down. I will tell you that the Texas gerrymander is frankly absurd. I'll be the first person to tell you that. But we have to talk about the topic at large of gerrymandering in this country. Both parties have done it to a T. Democrats just did it really well for a long time. But what you're looking at right now is a consolidated power grab. And I don't blame Gavin Newsom for doing the move that he's made. He's trying to counter the influence that the Texas legislature and Governor Abbott are trying to do. And I know a number of blue states. I know Maryland's looking at potentially a redistrict and all of that. So ultimately, I think the redistricting battle right now in Texas is really getting at the heart of the soul of the nation, of figuring out and making sure that we're doing what we can to protect democracy.
Do you think there's any connection between the gutting of the Voting Rights Act and this? Did that make this sort of thing easier? I mean, it seems like it would almost have to have been part of this or contributed to this to make this possible.
You know, what I wonder about this, and you know, that's why if it can't be stopped, it'll be interesting. Not interesting, but it'll obviously be a tragedy. But if it does go through, you know, I actually was at a legislative luncheon today for the Hollywood Chamber. Debbie Wasserman Schultz spoke, and then our local state senator spoke, not about gerrymandering, but talking about local issues. So when you make districts that don't look like the same community, like we're a coastal region, so a big conversation today was about coastal issues, condos, sea level rise. You know, if they gerrymander the district so that we were in like Lake Okeechobee, right, it would make that representative would have a very hard time kind of representing their local community. So I wonder how that will play out. Of course, the gerrymandering of districts is not something that's new. I mean, the maps don't look like your zip codes, like all in a row, like you would imagine they should look, or like concentric circles on a map. They are drawn like, you know, very strangely. However, they do tend to represent people in the same area. You know, like Deborah Wasserman Schultz has, you know, the coast of Broward County, and then she goes west, you know, all the way out to Weston. Very similar areas, yes, coastal, but you know, but again, if they had moved moved that district to include like, you know, Central Florida, it would be a completely different, you know, set of issues that voters are trying to be in touch with. So I wonder how it will play out overall, because I just feel like it's not representing the people that live with the same issues.
And when you say from South Texas, which is you're on the way to Mexico, to the Oklahoma border, that is a vast amount. I mean, that's more mileage than some states have. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it is preposterous. And of course, we read about it in civics and, you know, 100 years ago in school, back when you could know history and stuff in school. And we would read about that, and it was always not a good plan or whatever, but I don't think it's ever been this obvious, like bragging about it. Yeah, we're doing it and you can't stop us. That seems particularly bold
And of note,
and various.
Yeah.
And of note that I want to make here is that Governor DeSantis and members of the legislature have flagged their own consideration of potentially redistricting, and then I can think we do have a couple of vulnerable Democratic districts where we have Jared Moskowitz only won re-election by I think 4 points last time. The margins for Lois Frankel have decreased. Margins for Debbie Wasserman Schultz have decreased, and quite frankly, the way that they've drawn the districts throughout the state is, let's just put it this way, there is very much a path to lose a lot of those seats. So we have to be cognizant, we have to be aware, and that's why we talk about local issues. It's important to pay attention to who your local state rep, who your local state senators are. Get on their phones. Trust me, as somebody who was formerly a municipal official himself, there's nothing easier to do than pick up the phone and call your state rep or to call their office and really let your voice be known to them. And if they don't follow your voice, my advice to you is either support their opponent, or if they don't have somebody that you find passionate about, step up to the plate and run yourself.
This is another reason why the first Trump administration went to a lot of effort to make people not eligible to be counted in the census, because this is another such issue. So all politics is local. So yes, participate in every election. If you don't like anybody, write somebody in. Just be part of the process. But also, when we're not paying attention, they were counting on us not paying attention. And now, after decades of that, here we are. So we've got to involve ourselves.
Definitely get involved, vote, and be informed.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Bishop Durrell Watkins, and let's queer up the USA View. Progressive think tank says we should drop these 3 phrases immediately to survive MAGA attacks. A progressive-leaning centrist think tank is making headlines by telling Democrats to stop using dozens of common social justice terms, including LGBTQ+ ones. Third Way, a Washington-based group, has released a new memo identifying 45 words and phrases they say are, quote, profoundly alienating, end quote, to voters. Their advice: drop them immediately if Democrats hope to stop the MAGA movement and win over everyday Americans. The list includes phrases familiar to many in our community, terms like cisgender, dead naming, heteronormative, and even LGBTQIA+ itself. Also on the chopping block are social justice staples such as privilege, systems of oppression, intersectionality, and microaggression. The group memo states, quote, for a party that spends billions of dollars trying to find the perfect language to connect to voters, Democrats and their allies use an awful lot of words and phrases no ordinary person would ever dream of saying, end quote. The group claims that while the intent of this language is inclusion, the effect sounds elitist or enforcers of wokeness. Third Way insists they are not policing speech, but urging Democrats to use words that invite conversation rather than repel voters. The memo adds, quote, standing up to MAGA's cruel attacks on gay and transgender people requires creating empathy and building a broad coalition, not confusing or shaming people who could otherwise be allies, end quote. As the memo is out, critics point out the irony. While Democrats debate dropping words, the current Republican administration has banned more than 250 terms from federal communications, including those acknowledging LGBTQ+ lives, racial discrimination, and climate change. The fight over language is becoming more than just semantics. It's about survival in the culture wars and the 2026 elections. The memo itself is a microaggression. I was angry the minute I came across this story. Because what I hear, now they're trying to do a good thing. I know they're trying to do a good thing. Although they have a different definition of progressive than I do. But they're trying to do a good thing. And but what I hear from what they're saying is, we will do better in elections if we'll just go back in the closet. And whether that's the educational closet or the justice closet or the queer closet, if we will just go back if we will assimilate, that's the problem. And this has been going on since the 50s, the in-your-face people and the suit and tie people, and it's always been back and forth. And this is telling us, you people with all of your psychology and sociology and political science, you're killing us. Shut it up a little bit. And I think that's an insult to middle America. I think that's telling that people they don't know what words mean, that I'm going to pray for a moment. It is incredible to me that the suggestion seems to be, I had to vote for a rapist because of woke language. That just seems ridiculous to me. I had to support a convicted felon because of acronyms. I had to support a self-admitted predator because of, intersectionality, whatever that is. I had to vote for the guy who incited an attack on the Capitol because, trans. No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Assimilation is never the answer. There may be better ways that we can invite conversation. Maybe we should not come up with a new word every 3 days. Maybe we should be more tolerant for people who don't embrace the words. There's lots of rooms for criticism and growth. But to shut down 40 years of evolution is not only not going to happen, it's not the right approach anyway. I have more faith in my neighbors than that. And I would rather be fully who I am out loud all the time and lose elections than to hide just to get more from it. We tried that up until Stonewall, and I'm just not going back.
I get you on that one. It's one of those things where I understand what Third Way is trying to do here, but there's another way to handle this that doesn't involve eliminating language. And quite frankly, a lot of it comes down to simplifying the way that we talk about these issues to average folks. Like, one of the people I think that talks best about trans issues, Governor Andy Beshear, the two-term Democratic governor of Kentucky. I remember when he was specifically vetoing a piece of anti-trans legislation that was affecting the schools, he had said, in basic terms, this legislation is about protecting one group of kids from being picked on by another group of kids. We sometimes forget and I'm just going to say it as a Democrat himself, we sometimes forget that we sometimes have to simplify our language to meet people where they are. Like, do people necessarily understand intersectionality or all that stuff when you go into rural West Virginia? No. But if you talk about different backgrounds and how we should all be getting along in a simpler term, you communicate better on through. It's all about knowing your audience and the people that you want to communicate to in order to broaden your base and broaden your coalition.
I find, though, that if you define terms, that helps too. Because people are always telling me, because really our vocabulary is shrinking just across the nation. And so I'll say a word that I learned 40 or 50 years ago, and nobody knows what it means anymore. Well, I don't want to unsay it. I don't want to forget it. So, but if I think it's one of those words, I will explain it. So if I say, I have a hermeneutic of suspicion, and then I'll say, what I mean is, I am suspicious of these things, that I don't take it as it comes to me. Well, okay, so if I think that, I do, but I'm not, I don't want to shrink it hurts me that the national vocabulary has shrunk anyway. So, but if I do think I'm using a word that, that they wouldn't know in the 8th grade in West Virginia, I do try to define it and then not maybe overuse it after that. But I don't know. We do have to be clearer, but I don't know that shrinking the vocabulary, which is happening on its own, I don't like that.
I see this as two distinct groups. We're talking about politicians who are running for office, and we're talking about using it in our own culture. I think using it in our own culture is very different. I think that a lot of times politicians cling to these buzzwords and use them in a way that is off-putting because they're looking to gain favor with different groups. And I do think that overuse of those, if you're not speaking to that community or to a group that's going to understand that, it doesn't ring true to people, and especially if you're a politician not speaking from the community. If you're a white cisgender male and you're speaking to a black church, you might have a different approach than if you were a black pastor in a black church. You're going to speak differently. So I think the audience makes a big difference. And I do think that our community, and I've been in a lot of spaces where, we have to also be more forgiving when people don't understand
100%.
what the language means and not use it as a weapon against people. Exactly. And there is a big movement of people that do use some of this language as a weapon. If you say LGBTQ and someone says, "Oh, you didn't say IA," if you misgender someone as on accident, that's very different than purposely misgendering someone. Or if you're in in your speech, you're referring to something. I agree. Tell the story more than the term, because I think the story is what connects people and makes people think that, again, the issue is actually palpable. The terminology may be off-putting. If people makes them feel uncomfortable, tell them the story of what's happening.
I also think that integrity has a lot to do with it. If people are just using someone else's word to make a point, you can smell that. You can feel that. You know what I mean? And you said these politicians, and it just occurred to me, there are so many politicians that I know that have been not only in politics 40 years, but in the same office for 30, 40 years. And so, yeah, when you're grabbing at straws to hold power like that, that is also part of the problem. Again, back when we got to learn some history, there were the gentleman farmer and the school teacher and these people who would run for Congress and be there for 8 years and then go back to their lives. It might be very different if those people used anywhere in the world because they were using their word from their community. But for career politicians to always have to figure out what are the people going to like. Well, it's because they're not from the people anymore.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up gay culture. Rocky Horror at 50. New book reveals rare behind-the-scenes photos. This fall, the Rocky Horror Picture Show will turn 50, and a new book is set to take fans back to the very beginning of the cult phenomenon. The movie made famous the gender-bending character of Dr. Frankenfurter and his song loudly proclaiming, "I'm just a sweet transvestite." Now, Harper Pop has announced the release of Rocky Horror, a behind-the-scenes look at the cult classic, arriving September 30th. The 256-page volume showcases never-before-seen photographs from the late Mick Rock, the photographer famously known as the man who shot the 70s. Rock was the only photographer granted full access to the 1975 film set, and his camera captured everything from Tim Curry's dazzling transformation into Frankenfurter to Susan Sarandon's ingenue moments. Speaking of his behind-the-scenes work, he said, quote, "I could snap whatever caught my eye, stirred my imagination," end quote. The book, priced at $50, pairs his images with reflections from cultural icons like Joan Jett, Courtney Love, Karen O, Juliette Lewis, and drag stars Jinx Monsoon and Trixie Mattel. Richard O'Brien, who wrote the original stage musical, provides the foreword, while journalist Tim Moore, who passed away in March, compiled the project. Though the film bombed on release, it went on to gross nearly $225 million and became the longest-running theatrical release in history, with midnight screenings that embrace queerness, camp, and rebellion. For generations of queer fans, Rocky Horror wasn't just a movie, it was a movement. This is interesting. The idea of Rocky Horror, if you could imagine, in today's world, and the reason I'm bringing this up is there's a documentary that's on HBO right now, a very sad documentary about the girls that were killed at this yogurt shop. But in the documentary, they talk about the Friday night of all the kids were going out. It was like in the 90s, I guess, and they were all going to the Rocky Horror Picture Show in Austin, Texas. So again, it's in Texas. All these people dressed up, makeup, and guys, and mostly, I'm assuming, straight people. A lot of straight people that were going to this. And I'm thinking today, could I imagine this playing out for, like, that high school kids are going to see a transvestite, rock musical in a theater and singing along and getting dressed up? It almost made me realize like how culturally this movie is so progressive, but yet, and how its reach went to so many different communities that love the movie, and I wonder if that would be the same today if that movie were to come out.
I don't know, but this is when you hear of cult movies, usually it was sort of famous or well received in the art house communities, or universities would show it, or it became like a big video. Remember videos? It became a big video seller, rental, or whatever. This is, I think, unique in that it has not just been up for a period like that, like this, the Town That Dreaded Sundown. That was, that was at drive-in theaters, and people knew about it and talked about it. But after a while, it just went away. This has never gone away. This every generation seems to find it. There's something universal and timeless about its appeal that I remember in the 80s, and it was already, had been out for a while, in the 80s, we'd go to Shreveport, Louisiana, anywhere we could find it. We would go to these. When I first moved to Florida 19 years ago, there was a showing of it at a local theater every weekend for years. I remember when I lived in a suburb of DC, we went to Frederick, Maryland to see a live production of it. Frederick, Maryland. Y'all. So yeah, this has caught the imagination of a nation, and it didn't end. So I have no genius comment about why that is, but it's fascinating, and I'm glad that we can say that about it, that it has not outlived its usefulness.
Yeah.
Yep, and I like to remind people that Rocky Horror actually launched a couple of legendary careers out of it. We talked about Susan Sarandon, and another name that people tend to forget, rest in peace, Meatloaf.
Meatloaf, yes.
There started his career. So ultimately, the impact that it's had, not just as a movement, but going into the field of cinema, and also, since we're talking about Meatloaf, the field of music as well. There's the impact.
Absolutely. And Susan Sarandon was a alumni of my high school in New Jersey. I love anything with Susan Sarandon in it.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Gil Pontes, and let's queer up entertainment. Chris Evans' jockstrap scene in Honey Don't goes viral. Hollywood heartthrob Chris Evans has once again set the internet ablaze, this time by slipping into a jockstrap for Ethan Coen's new film, Honey Don't. Evans, long considered a gay icon after his infamous whipped cream stunt in 2001's Not Another Teen Movie, has now given fans an updated, thirst-inducing moment. In Honey Don't, the actor plays a cult leader named Reverend Drew Delvin. In one particular scene, Evans appears in nothing but a jockstrap. This moment leaked online recently and immediately went viral. A fan page called @See Evans Contents on Twitter posted the GIF of the jockstrap scene that has now amassed over 14.1 million views. Several other fan accounts across platforms have since reshared the clip, sparking a wave of memes, reactions, and delighted commentary. Honey Don't is a dark comedy detective movie directed by Ethan Coen and co-written with Trisha Cook. It stars Margaret Qualley as private investigator Honey O'Donoghue and Aubrey Plaza as police officer M.G. Falcone. Evans' cult leader role provides one of the film's most talked about scenes, without a doubt adding to the viral buzz. Whether you're going for the comedy, the detective thrills, or let's be honest, Evans in a jockstrap, Honey Do is now playing in theaters nationwide. Chris Evans in a jockstrap, that's an appealing thought, but also having a Coen Brothers movie, having this dark comedy, it just sells itself. Like, as a cinema geek, you throw the Coen Brothers into it. He's only one part of the Coen Brothers, but I'm in.
Yeah, the jockstrap thing is actually a really, really good idea. We did that as a fundraiser here once at Sunshine Cathedral. I said that if we raised enough money, I would promise never to do that, and that's how we got all our new seats in the sanctuary. But it's okay, that's not quite true. But it looks you've got it all, right? I mean, you've got comedy, you've got intrigue, you've got sex appeal, you've got legendary people behind the camera. I can't think of a reason not to see it.
I'm a huge Aubrey Plaza fan, so her deadpan comedy is always on point. So I'm sure it'll be great in this movie, and I'm not going to say no to Chris Evans in a jockstrap either.
Hey.
So, hey, what can I say? That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing to and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ and community.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform. Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Jeff Oliverio, and on behalf of these LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Gil Pontes and Bishop Durrell Watkins, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, be transformative, and queer. Good night.